Hey, Michael with XForcePC. Want to talk about the RealSimGear GNS530, which I have right here. And it looks pretty cool. It works just like a Garmin 530. But you might say, well, how does it work? You know, what kind of magic is it? How many wires do you have to hook up and all that? Well, that's what I was wanting to talk about now. So, first of all, you have to plug this into power. I mean, I think most people would expect that. Secondly, this is a monitor. So the computer sees this device as a monitor. A very small monitor, but a monitor nonetheless. Then around the perimeter, you have these functional buttons, which to the computer are sort of like joystick buttons. You know, any of the accessory buttons you'd have on a joystick. This hooks to the computer twice. Okay, and we may go, oh, what do you mean twice? Well, one is it hooks up like a monitor to an HDMI port. And the other way it hooks up is to a USB port. So the HDMI portion allows you to display what's on the screen. And then the USB portion handles all of the button presses and the knob turns and so forth. And then there's a little plug-in that you put into your plugins folder within X-Plane that lets the computer know when I press this button, what does that do? How does that work? Now, this, as I mentioned earlier, uses HDMI, and you may only have one HDMI on the back of your graphics card. And by the way, this does not come with an HDMI cable in the box. But if you're already using your HDMI, because most video cards only have one, you might say, well, geez, how am I supposed to hook this thing up? Well, we'll offer for sale on the same product page a HDMI to DisplayPort adapter. Almost all modern graphics cards have multiple display ports. And a DisplayPort is rounded on one side and kind of squared off on the other, whereas HDMI is rounded on both sides. And so you just plug the DisplayPort in on the PC side and you plug the HDMI in on the side of the RealSimGear and you're up and connected. Now we will send you video directions of me setting this up, but then also on the RealSimGear website there are printed text directions and links and so forth. So you can kind of choose to do it both ways or one way or the other. You can use video, you can use the printed directions, or you can kind of use my video and follow along with the printed directions. And for most people, it should be a pretty straightforward setup. So that's what is the GNS530 from RealSimGear. I'm not really necessarily doing a review here, but what I can tell you is it works as designed. You know, it does what it's supposed to do. The knobs turn, you change frequencies, you know, the buttons feel like they're good quality, and it just works. And I may not have mentioned this earlier, but it is compatible with all planes that use the X-Plane 530. If there's some sort of oddball plane out there that uses its own homegrown Garmin 530 emulator, this will not work with it. It works with the X-Plane 530. You should find that to be few and far between that you find a plane that doesn't use the X-Plane 530, but there's probably one out there somewhere, so I figured I ought to mention it. And there you go, there's what is and how does it work, and hopefully that helps you understand the RealSimGear GNS530 a little bit more.